Bills Mafia, are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Akeem, are you not entertained? Welcome into the Built in Buffalo post-game show. I woke up my kids. I scared the shit out of my dog. I think my neighbors heard me. Akeem, what's going on in your world over there, man? How you feeling right now?
Same. I went crazy. So since I went crazy, Kuda went crazy. Kuda's my dog. So it was the first game of the season. My voice is a little raspy already because again, roller coaster of emotions throughout the course of this game. And what a way to end football, ladies and gentlemen! Football is back, and it ends off.
Yeah.
It caps off if you're Buffalo, especially if you're a Buffalo Bills fan. A great night, comeback fashion for our Bills. So I'm excited. I'm excited, bro.
I see Kim Boomhauer in the chat. I'm beyond words. I honestly I was talking to Akeem while the game was happening. And I think we both felt the same way. Like, this is going to suck. This post game's going to be the first one. It's going to suck. Okay. We talked about how to stop the Ravens. And it just felt like, here we go again. But then the second half, I don't know. The script just flipped and the Bills just found a way to get it done. So thank you, everybody, for watching Built in Buffalo's post-game show. I am Dave Myers. That is Akeem Richens. We are the founders of Built in Buffalo. This is the Built in Buffalo post-game show. We will be here live after every post-game. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on X. Smash the like button and drop comments. I want this chat to go crazy. This game, wow, what a way. I was already looking through my graphics, putting that 0-1 graphic together. But here we are. Like I said to Akeem, and I don't want to jump the gun on stuff, but obviously for the last 6 months, we've heard about the MVP conversation. We've heard about if it was an award that Josh Allen should have won. We heard about this and that. And on the brightest of brightest stages tonight, one-on-one, Josh and Lamar, the last two MVPs, it was looking pretty dicey there, but then Josh Allen just did his thing in the second half. I mean, Akeem, what did you think? And we can start. We'll go slow. Again, this is presented by Southern Tier Brewery, our new sponsor for this year. We can't be thankful enough to have those guys. So, Akeem, I got to slow down, dude, because my heart's still racing.
You're good.
I got 1,000 thoughts in my head. I hope you're not in any kind of hurry. I know it's
not at all.
It's late. But we've been waiting a long time for football. You and me have been waiting a long time to do this together. So give me some of your initial thoughts. Just kind of run me through, and then obviously we can break down the meat and potatoes and the stats and all that stuff. Initial thoughts, man.
Initial thoughts. I was, it's a roller coaster. Like I said earlier, a roller coaster of emotions that you go through or that you went through when you saw this game for the Buffalo Bills. Being a fan of the Buffalo Bills, and I thought we saw a lot of things that were weaknesses last year that was kind of showing their head this year and this early in the game, and that's stopping the run. And Derrick Henry, obviously, he had a successful night. Getting off the field on third downs, it was a little frustrating that we were getting these advantageous spots as a defense where you want to be in on third and longs, and we can't get off the field on third down, and we're not making that big play. And then on a lot of other times, it was just a little too easy for the Baltimore Ravens. It was too easy for Derrick Henry at times. It was too easy for Lamar Jackson at times. It was too easy for Zay Flowers at times. So the frustration was definitely kicking in, and you're just like, okay, we revamped our whole defensive line. So what is it now? What's the excuse now? It's the players? Yes, it's the players. We got to judge what we see on the field, the product on the field. But now, as fans, we start judging quick. It's coaching. It's what's going on with Bobby Babish. Is he the guy? Is it coaching the issue? Could it be some issues there? And then once again, just like last year, second half, of course, Baltimore Ravens didn't make plays in the second half, but for the most part, when the Buffalo Bills defense needed to make a play, they made a play. When the Buffalo Bills defense needed to stop, they got to stop. And every time they got that stop and they turned it over to the Buffalo Bills offense in crucial and crunch time moments, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills offense was able to make plays. Josh Allen himself willed his team offensively to victory, being aggressive. It was night and day for Joe Brady as a play caller as well, because I had my frustrations as well with him earlier in the first half in terms of, you know,
Screen.
a screen on 3rd and 6. Screen on 3rd and 6 to your tight end. I love 𝐿𝐻𝐾, but let's stretch the ball down the field a little bit. And I've seen him had some struggles, but when the Buffalo Bills needed it, when the Buffalo Bills had no choice but to be aggressive and get the ball downfield, they got the ball downfield and they made plays. And Josh Allen proved why he's an MVP, man. He proved, I believe, why he is the best quarterback in this NFL. I know they rave about Lamar Jackson, but this moment, this situation, clutch play after clutch play, you had to be perfect to win this type of game if you're the offense for the Buffalo Bills and if you're Josh Allen at quarterback, and he was down the stretch. So amazing victory, and what a way to cap off week 1 and Sunday night football going into Monday night tomorrow night.
Yeah, I even posted on Twitter that the Ravens matchup for the Bills is just not a good matchup. I felt like, and this was during the first half, obviously, when it felt like Joe Brady just didn't learn from the previous 2 games where the Ravens secondary was just not giving the Bills anything. And the Ravens also were loading the box. They did that last year, week 4. They did that in the divisional round, and it was just giving Josh fits up until whatever they did in the locker room at halftime. I felt like Josh Allen, they said, just go be Josh Allen, right? Now, obviously, we were complaining a little bit in the first half about no one's getting open. That changed in the second half. Like, I don't know if the routes that were being called were more, they were catered to the guys that we have. You saw Keon had a great second half. That one drive, I think he had 4 or 5 receptions, had that big pass interference penalty that he got. And then Joshua Palmer made a big play. I mean, Jackson Hall's even had a big reception. So to me, whatever they did in the first half, we need to just take that film and just burn it, right? Burn it. If we're going to end up playing the Ravens again at some point this season in the postseason, like that film from the first half, don't use that again. Whatever they did in the second half. Now, I understand when it was 40-25, maybe the Ravens were kind of changing their coverage schemes a little bit just because they didn't want to give up big plays. And Josh was just paper cut. And then they scored. And then all of a sudden there was a turnover. And then the Bills got the ball back and scored again. And then when you're like, oh my God, we have a chance. So again, if there's any question about never being out of a game because you have Josh Allen, it was true tonight. Like, I don't know how many times tonight where we just saw Derrick Henry just cut through the line like a hot knife through butter. And I want to start there, Akeem, if you're cool with that. I want to start with the Bills defensive line and kind of dig into this a little bit, because I feel like in the first half, the DTs were getting bullied. They were getting pushed wherever the Ravens wanted to push them. Joey Bosa wasn't effective in the first half. We didn't see much of Greg Rousseau. Ed Oliver, I will say, however, did make a couple plays in the first half. So what was your take on the younger defensive tackles that the Bills had out there? And then I guess you can sprinkle in DaQuan Jones because he was out there for a little bit too. What was your thoughts about the front 4? Not so much the edge defenders, but the DTs. What was your thoughts? Oh, you're muted.
I apologize. I said, I mean, my thoughts. I mean, it looked rough. It looked rough out there for the Buffalo Bills defensive front, especially early. And honestly, throughout the course of the entire game, they buckled up at the end of the game. So I got to give them credit there. But Derrick Henry, 18 attempts, 169 yards, 9.4 yards per carry. 49 was his long. He had 3 carries, 3 runs for over 30 yards. So, that starts up front, that starts in the trenches. So of course you definitely have your concerns. And then once you get to the second level, you just see the athletic ability in terms of the differences in athletic ability with Derrick Henry and anybody else the Buffalo Bills have on that back end in that secondary when he's able to pull away. So I would love to see some improvement. It's the first game. It's Derrick Henry. That's a hell of a test for your first game. If you're TJ Sanders or if you're Deion Walker or even if you're Joey Bosa, you're coming in. I don't think he's used to playing in games like this. No disrespect to what the Chargers got going on, but in this atmosphere during this time, understanding the magnitude of Buffalo Bills football. So I think it was a lot of guys that are still new to the system, and hopefully as the season progressed, they can get better. But at times, I definitely looked at Bobby Babbage and said, okay, it's a little bit too easy. There is no resistance here. I understand when players have to make plays as well. Players have to execute plays as well, right? But coaches have to put players in the right positions to make the play. And I think Chris Collinsworth even called it out. He blatantly called out Buffalo Bills defensive coordinator without calling him out. He was like, why is the safety blitzing here? He has no chance to get here. He has no chance to get to the quarterback in this situation, the down and distance of where he's at to Lamar Jackson. He has no chance to get to him. Why is he sending him on the blitz there? And that's a direct shot at whoever's the play caller is for your team. So I definitely think is some things to clean up as a defensive coordinator in terms of play calling. And again, in the first game for players as well, they got to clean things up on their end. So I think the Buffalo Bills, great win, great comeback win, a lot to talk about, but still a lot of things to clean up.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills ended up, the second half obviously was the telltale sign that if you look at the stats, if you look at them after the first half, and then if you look at the final game stats, it's completely skewed one way. The Bills had 29 first downs. The Ravens had 19. Again, a lot of that is skewed because of the big Derrick Henry runs in the first half. And those runs too, like you alluded to, like those runs weren't outside. It's Derrick Henry. He's just going to come right up the middle and just find a crease, and you can't tackle him. And even you kind of alluded to it, but Chris Collinsworth mentioned that it was embarrassing. The situation that Cole Bishop, he was swatting at Derrick Henry's arm. What do you think is going to happen? He's going to swat you away like you're a fly. That's just a big boy. That's just the size difference that Cole Bishop just does not want to be in. And I understand it's Derrick Henry. Like he's one of one, right? He's a unicorn. There's no running back like Derrick Henry. But then if you look at the total yards, Bills 497 and the Ravens 432. Most of that came in the second half. If you look at what Josh Allen was able to do, almost 400 yards passing, 394. I believe at halftime he had like a $130. I could be off by a couple yards here and there, but it just goes to show you that if you stick to your guns and in the locker room at halftime, and a lot of fans were clamoring for it, it's like you have Josh Allen. Why are we throwing passes at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage? Why, like you said, why are we throwing on 3rd and 6 a screen pass to Dalton Kincaid, which, by the way, he fumbled out of bounds, thankfully, in that spot. So it's very interesting to kind of see now. It is week 1, right? So I feel like when we talked on Billsology, we talked about how some things are going to be sloppy. And I feel like that was the Bills defense in the first half, and I feel like that was the Ravens defense in the second half. I feel like both teams kind of got away from what they were doing early on, and you could tell, and it favored the Bills. The Bills went away from the short passing game. The Bills just were trying to get it looked like it was just too hard for the Bills in the first half, and it looked like everything was easy for the Ravens in the first half. Mm-hmm. Flip the script into the second half, it looked like everything was coming to Josh Allen, to where Lamar Jackson seemed like he was having some trouble in the second half. So kudos to, I asked Akeem, and he's not gonna answer this question, but I asked Akeem if Bobby Babbage was calling plays in the second half or if it was Sean McDermott, because the defense looked like there was some different looks. They gambled a little bit more in the second half. I feel like I saw the linebackers with some more blitzing packages and things like that. You mentioned the blitz from Cole Bishop. So let's talk about Joey Bosa for a minute. Because he played a lot. He played a lot more than I thought he was going to play. And in the first couple series, I was like, it kind of looks like the age was catching up to him for a little bit. But as the game kind of progressed, you saw him make that nice play in the backfield on that run. You saw him actually set the edge and contain on the Lamar Jackson when he tried to get outside. He got beat on it the first time, but the second time he was able to contain him. So what was your thoughts overall on Joey Bosa tonight? First game as a Bill.
I liked what I liked about the Buffalo Bills overall is the adjustments they made throughout the course of the game, that tends to lead to Joey Bosa as well. Like you said, he was getting beat earlier in the game where he looked sluggish, he looked slow. Lamar Jackson, he wasn't holding contain, he wasn't holding outside contain when he was supposed to. He went on the inside, but as the game progressed, he started to settle in and he started to get the flow of the football game and he started to make plays. So it was a slow start for Joey Bosa, but once again, this is a guy that throughout the course of the last several years is not used to playing, a consistent brand of football regularly and playing a lot of snaps. It seems as if, I'm gonna see when the numbers come out, but it seems as if he played a lot more snaps than we probably thought he would play in. I think that for him to come out this game healthy is the most important, because the reps is going to do nothing but get him better as the season goes along.
Yeah, and what did you think about the Bills secondary? Let's dig into this secondary. Obviously, Dorian Strong, a rookie starting. It looked like early he was actually covering Zay Flowers. It looked like that early. I was a little scared when Christian Benford led head first on that one play that he knocked the guy out of bounds. I was concerned because he was down for a couple seconds. I was concerned there. And then you have Cole Bishop and you have Taylor Rapp. What was your thoughts? It's week one, right? We're not going to overreact. I've told myself all day long I'm not going to overreact, but we have to talk about what we saw, right? We have to talk about what we saw. So let's start with the corners first. What was your thoughts there? Obviously, this wasn't Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, all that. Ravens still have some pretty good wide receivers. So what was your thoughts about the corner play tonight?
I thought the corners did well for the Buffalo Bills. Actually, I'm not mad at the overall play. I mean, don't get me wrong. You don't want to see, Zay Flowers 7 receptions, 143 yards. You don't want to see that. But those chunk plays, I'm not sure if that's player or if that's play call. And me personally, I'm tending to lean towards the play call in terms of why the Buffalo Bills are giving up so many chunk plays. What's the confusion? It got to be something. It got to be disconnect with players and play call. And because I see it this year and I saw it last year, and I have to think about coaching and what's going on with the disconnect, especially in beginning of games. I would say it tightens up, it buttons up as the course of the game goes along, that we saw later in this game. But what's the disconnect early on where we show the lack of resistance, where we give up so many chunk plays? But when you look at Lamar Jackson, 209 yards, he had 2 TDs. When you have the Derrick Henry running the ball the way he runs the ball, I said it on Billsology, it opens up so many other things and so many proponents to the Baltimore Ravens offense. So with them having the running game that they had, I think the Buffalo Bills secondary did well despite some too long plays from Zay Flowers.
Yeah, I was a little skeptical about Dorian Strong, but again, we talked about it last night on Billsology. Like, I think let him get his lumps, right? If you look at the slate of games that the Bills have coming up, I feel like if he's going to play and Trey's going to be out for a little while, let him get right. Let him get 100% right and rock with Dorian Strong. I mean, he's only going to go up from here, I think, right? So what about the safety play? Taylor Rapp, I don't think was horrible, serviceable tonight, but Cole Bishop, what's your take on Cole Bishop's performance? Because he's always going to be the guy that everyone has under a microscope because he was a second-round pick, because he missed training camp last year. He missed training camp this year. A lot of people have been questioning if the Bills should have signed Jabril Peppers, if they should have drafted the safety. What's your thoughts on Cole Bishop's performance tonight? And was there some good things that you saw, or was it just kind of ho-hum? What's your thoughts?
It's Cole Bishop is still a work in progress. I believe that he made some mistakes tonight in terms of leverage and his drops, and obviously, trying to tackle Derrick Henry. I don't think you could fault him on that because a lot of people failed doing that. Not just Cole Bishop, but overall, I think he still has a ways to go, and it's unfortunate that we do have to depend so much on our safety play and Cole Bishop to being the guy. But right now, I don't see You know, I don't think he's where we would expect him to be at this point of his career with the Buffalo Bills as a second round pick going into his second year. But again, it's not something that I believe that can't be fixed. I believe it's still young and it's still early in his career. He's still a second year player. He still has development and room to grow because the lack of playing time he did have and the lack of experience he has. I think he still has a chance to get better, but right now I think he has a ways to go.
Yeah, so let's keep it on the defensive side of the ball. What did you like from what you saw from the Bills? Like, what stood out to you? Ed Oliver, to me, made some plays in the first half, made some plays in the second half, caused that fumble that Terrell Bernard recovered. What stood out to you in a positive aspect from the Bills defense? And I know it's hard giving up 400 yards and 40 points, but like, what's your thoughts there?
Oh, like you said, I think the obvious, man. I think it has to be Ed Oliver here. I think he has to be the guy that has to be talked about. But he's the one that made splash plays. He's the one that made game changing, difference making plays. And we spoke about earlier in the season or in the off season, who is that guy on defense that's going to step up and make a play when the Buffalo Bills need them to make a play. And Ed Oliver came up big and came up dominant at times, looked dominant against the Baltimore Ravens stout offensive front and Derrick Henry and got the strip sack. And, it just changed the entire complexion of the game. So Ed Oliver definitely gets, his big kudos for this game.
So again, not overreacting here, but I've been saying for about a month now that this defense was going to take some lumps. I feel like the worst opponent you could possibly go against for week one is the Baltimore Ravens because they have not just Derrick Henry, but they have Lamar Jackson, who can beat you with his arm, can beat you with his legs. So do you think that this is something that we should be concerned with as far as giving up 400 yards, 40 points, the run game? Now, every team doesn't have Derrick Henry. So I don't think this is going to be a reoccurring thing, but the Bills didn't accumulate a ton of pressure tonight. It felt like in the second half, they did a little bit more because they were dialing up some different defensive packages because obviously there was more of a sense of urgency. So is this something you feel like that they can kind of grow from? Is this something that you think is an issue that we shouldn't just say, well, it's just week one? Is this something that we should be concerned with? Like, what's your thoughts there? Is this growing pains? Like, what's your thoughts?
So you don't, I look at it in both sides of the spectrum. You don't want to revamp your defensive line, and of course, Larry Ogunjobi's not there and Michael Hoyt's not there. But you don't want to have an off season kind of revamping revamping your defensive line to come back in game one to end up with similar results that made you go revamp your defensive line in the offseason in the first place. So when I think about it that way, it's a little disheartening. It's like, okay, now, if this is going to be a thing, who are we blaming this time? Because we got rid of a bunch of players, we shuffled a lot of guys out, we bring in a lot of guys in, and if it's the same results, and at times it probably possibly worse because Derrick Henry played better this game than he did last game in the regular season last year, and that's a scary thought to begin with, right? So I think the Buffalo Bills have to get better stopping the run. I think we have to see it immediately. I don't think the leash is as long as it was for Bobby Babish as it was last year because of what the Buffalo Bills did to revamp their defensive front. So definitely a lot of work to be done. It is the very first game of the season. It helps to come back in impressive fashion and proclaim victorious. It doesn't take all the pressure off you as a defense, but it takes some. You can rejoice a little bit, but it's definitely a lot of work to do. And Bobby Babish definitely has, he has his work cut out for him because right now, great win. I don't know if he's that guy. I don't know if he's that guy that can lead us to a Super Bowl, that can lead us to a Super Bowl contending defense. And right now it's just that's what I'm concerned with. That's what's up in the air, and that's what remains to be seen. But we're going to see it as the season progresses, whether he is that guy or isn't that guy. Second half, I do believe Bobby Babbage was calling plays though.
Oh, you did answer. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. Now I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it was Derrick Henry, right? We've seen him. I mean, he almost had 2,000 yards last year. So he did it to a lot of teams, not just the Bills. So we talked last night on Billsology about the type of players that Brandon Beane is drafting and signing for the defensive line. Remember, we talked about that, and I said, do you think that he is going somewhat away from the true space eater one tech? And you were very adamant that the Bills still need a space eater and one tech, and it's apparent after tonight. So do you think that is what is absolutely needed? Because it's not Daquan Jones. I can tell you he's not that guy. He was bullied some tonight, and it didn't. It was, again, I have to take a lot of this with a grain of salt because it was Derrick Henry, and it was the first game of the season, and I'm sure they were rotating guys in and out on different looks that the offense was giving them, things like that. But is this a situation where it was proven, I guess, tonight somewhat to an extent that the Bills need a true one tech, and that should be the focus this coming off season? What's your thoughts?
This is the Buffalo Bills knew this. This is not like for us. If that's the question that we have to pose, then we definitely have to have some type of talks. No disrespect about his success that he's had for the Buffalo Bills, but we'll definitely need to have some talks with Brandon Beane in terms of what we're looking for and what we're looking at. We know what Baltimore Ravens are. We know what they've been. We know what they will be. We know about Derrick Henry. We know about Lamar Jackson. So if you felt that, the almost 200-yard game last year wasn't enough to make you get a one tech, and Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the playoffs and facing that, and you went through an entire offseason not worried about that, then I don't think it's something that the Buffalo Bills are just having their thought process. I believe that they just think that when it's time to line up, they should be able to stop them, and that is obviously not the case for the Buffalo Bills. The question is why. That's my thing. Why are the Buffalo Bills seeming to struggle on defense when your coach, that's his expertise? He's a head coach because of the success he had on that side of the ball. And in my opinion, whatever side of the ball your head coach lies, that is where your team should be able to hang their hat on. And right now, throughout the since a year and going into this season, the Buffalo Bills are not able to hang their hat on the defensive side of the ball. Is it player? Is it coaching? Is it play caller? What's going on there? And whatever it is going on there, that's what have to be rectified this season.
Yeah, I mean, I just went back and looked because it was 20-13 at halftime. So the Bills gave up 20 points in the first half. They also gave up 20 points in the second half. We're talking about all these adjustments the Bills made, but the Ravens still scored 20 points in the second half. The Bills just happened to score one more or 28 points and ended up scoring one more point in the game. So I don't know. Like I said, we're going to have to just let this play out. I feel like I've been on this whole, they're going to take lumps. There's so many different personnel in there. They went younger. They didn't go crazy spending. So they're gonna just have to figure it out. And like you said, we're just gonna have to keep an eye on Bobby Babbage and see if there's tendencies that don't change or maybe that do change. And like you've always said with Sean McDermott, do what got you hired, right? You're a defensive head coach. Do what you need to do to get to where you got to. Sorry, I'm still a little frazzled.
No, you good.
All right, let's flip. Yeah, anything else you want to talk about the defensive side of the ball? Anything else that stood out to you? Or how about Matt Milano? What do you think of Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard tonight?
They were okay. I don't think they stood out either way, in a positive or negative aspect. I think they made some plays. I see Milano, he did make some plays out there, but overall, I'm just happy that Matt Milano got through the game healthy and unscathed, and hopefully he can continue to do that. Some of these players, it's going to take a while. It's going to take some time for some of our players to get in the groove. And I think Matt Milano, despite him having a great training camp, is going to be one of those guys where it's going to take some time to get in the groove, along with Joey Bosa. So, not bad what I've seen from them today. But of course, giving up 40 points, you definitely want to, you definitely want to tighten up some things. And I think it starts up front. I think it starts within the trenches. The Buffalo Bills have to tighten up that trenches next week. The New York Jets, they they had over 30 points today. They got Breece Hall. They got a running back who could be effective. So we definitely have to tighten up in the trenches in that run defensive department.
Did you see the play where Derrick Henry actually cut outside and he just got bodied by Dorian Williams?
Yeah.
Dorian Williams is a freak, dude. If
he's
he
physical.
if he can bring the mental aspect of the game, and I hate saying this because it sounds like I'm dogging the guy for not being smart, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the mental aspect of reading plays and things like that. If he can get that all just lined up with his physicality, I think he's gonna be very special. So let's flip to offense, because I think in the first half we were pretty frustrated. I think in the first half, Joe Brady's play calling was a lot of what we saw last year, not just against the Ravens, but we saw a lot of this stuff against the Chiefs, where it was the bubble screens and throwing things to Ty Johnson or Khalil Shakir at the line of scrimmage. What was your take on the first half? And then we'll kind of dig into the second half on Joe Brady, now in his second full season as the Bills offensive coordinator. What was your thoughts there?
Thoughts on Joe Brady the first half? It was frustrating. it was frustrating at times to see, the Buffalo Bills. They didn't have the success. I believe 12 yards was James Cook along, but they didn't have the success in the run game we would want to see from the Buffalo Bills offense. But I think in the second half, the first half, the Buffalo Bills were just too focused on throwing short and being horizontal. And there's nothing wrong with being a horizontal team, as long as you can mix up some vertical concepts with it. And if you're going to be a run team and throw the ball horizontally, or throw the ball to the sideline and expect, or throw the ball short and expect the guys to make plays, you could get predictable that way if you're not adding other concepts into the equation. So I felt that in the first half, Joe Brady was being real simplistic in his offensive play calls. He was being conservative, and thus he was being predictable. And I believe the Buffalo Bills should have been more aggressive in that first half, but Joe Brady, for whatever reason, started off slow.
So what do you think changed in the second half? Because a lot of Bills fans, myself included, were a little bit concerned with the lack of separation downfield by the receivers. You could tell nobody was getting open, so Josh Allen didn't even trust to throw the ball downfield because he didn't want to put the ball in harm's way. So what do you think is in terms of what the play calling was in the first half, and how did it change in the second half? Because when it was 40-25, I was concerned that the Bills were driving down the field, but it seemed like they were moving the ball, but it was taking forever. Like there wasn't a huge sense of urgency. But ultimately, they obviously got the job done. So what do you think changed in the second half? Obviously, you have to pass when you're down 15, right? You have to. But guys were getting open. It seems like there was more guys getting open in the second half. So from a philosophy standpoint, what do you think changed in the second half? Was it just how the Ravens were playing defense, or what's your thoughts? Did they? I hate saying that they're just playing, to not lose the game, the Ravens, but the Bills seem to be doing what they wanted offensively in the second half. What's your thoughts?
I think the Buffalo Bills just started attacking, whether that's because they're down 16, or they're down multiple scores and they have no choice but to be more aggressive, or that's because they actually went out there in halftime and made actual coaching adjustments. But regardless, they went more vertical, they went more downfield in the second half. We have to give credit to the Buffalo Bills offensive line. Josh Allen, I believe he did get sacked one time, but
Yep.
he was protected very well, and his the way he was protected gave him enough time to scan the field and made a lot of plays downfield. So we definitely have to give credit to that offensive line for protecting Josh Allen so he can make those plays. And I think the difference was just getting vertical, letting Josh Allen, putting the ball in his hands. He's a veteran now. He's an MVP, putting the ball in the MVP's hands, trusting him to make the plays. And he was damn near perfect when he needed to be at his most clutch situation. So it was just a excellent all around performance from Josh Allen overall, and the Buffalo Bills offense being perfect when they needed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the Ravens defense last year and then comparing it to the Ravens defense this year. It's hard to say, but I can't even believe it, but they got better on defense. I feel like, at least on paper. So if you look at the two games that Josh Allen played against the Ravens last year, including the postseason, I believe he had more passing yards tonight than he did in those two games combined. So if you look at that, you're like, okay, there's no question in my mind how much Josh Allen deserved the MVP based off of tonight's performance. I even saw LaShawn McCoy at the beginning of the third quarter texted out saying, please get Josh Allen some help. He can't do this by himself. And then lo and behold, here we go, like the Josh Allen experience, right? So what do you make of the lack? And I guess the second half, obviously they went away from it because they were down, but the lack of the running game in the first half, do you think that's just the play calling? Do you think that there's a scheme issue? Is it something with the offensive line? Because you just complimented them for how they, were able to keep Josh upright most of the game. What was your thoughts on the Bills running game as far as the offensive line, James Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, just being extremely ineffective in the first half with the Ravens just stacking the box? What's your thoughts?
Games be like that. Some games be like that. I believe the Baltimore Ravens have a excellent defense. I believe they have an excellent run defense. And when you're playing a physical team, you're going to have games where you may not run the ball as well as you want to. I believe the Buffalo Bills still ran the ball overall as a team for 100 yards. I believe 108 yards, if I'm not mistaken. But James Cook as an individual did have a pedestrian game today, but it's not nothing I'm worried about. You're playing the Baltimore Ravens, in my opinion. We just played the team that have the best roster in football, in my opinion. When I look when on paper, and you're looking at Lamar Jackson and you're looking at Derrick Henry and you've seen the catch DeAndre Hopkins made, and Isaiah Likely's hurt. He's going to be coming back. Mark Andrews, Ricard, when he comes back, you see where they at on defense with Jair Alexander and Malachi Starks, the rookie, and Kyle Hamilton and Mbuke. They're loaded. The Baltimore Ravens have the best roster in football, so I'm not concerned at all with the Buffalo Bills run game right now.
What was your thoughts on Keon Coleman? Because after I think he had that drop early, people were kind of like, oh, here we go. But then I mentioned it earlier at the open, like that drive where he had 4 or 5 receptions in that pass interference penalty called on him. Like, I think this was a big boy game for Keon Coleman. Obviously the failed 2-point conversion, but there was a lot of really nice stuff from Keon Coleman. So what's your thoughts on Keon Coleman? And we can kind of break down the other receivers here as we go. What's your thoughts?
Keon Coleman, he looked like a wide receiver one. He looked like, and I'm saying,
don't
that
say it too loud to Bills Mafia.
Listen, let's not overreact, right? Let's not overreact.
Yeah.
But Khalil Shakir, is he the wide receiver one? Yes, I believe he's the wide receiver one. But he is that. I look at Khalil Shakir as that Cole Bishop on steroids. He is, that Cole Beasley on steroids. He is the Uber security blanket for Josh Allen. He's the guy that's going to make those clutch plays. That's going to make those reliable plays when you need him to be there. But Keon Coleman, he looked like the alpha receiver. He was able. This is what, 8 receptions? What was it? 8 receptions.
I think he had 7 for a buck.
8 for $112 and a
8.
tutty.
There you go. A tutty.
So a tutty. So did he have problems? Did he have problems separating? I know we talk about separation a little bit, but when it seemed as if the coaches made adjustments and started to stretch the ball downfield and get vertical a little bit, it seemed as if we got into 𝐾𝐿 Coleman comfort zone. He was up there making jump catches. He was playing physical. He was playing a physical brand of football at the wide receiver position, and I liked what I saw.
Yeah,
I can't lie. I like what I saw from 𝐾𝐿 Coleman today. Yes, sir.
I think this is a game that can help. Like I talked about last year, I felt like he was trending until he got injured. He was like trending in the right direction. I feel like he would have had a really good, as far as rookie standards, last year would have had a really good rookie season. And I feel like this might be one of those confidence building, because I'm sure he hears all the talk. He told us flat out this offseason that he thought his rookie season was trash, his words. So I feel like this is hopefully going to be a confidence building game for him, where he was able in the second half to just kind of make some nice plays, get open, score a touchdown in a key situation, went over 100 yards, and maybe he can build that trust with Josh, because I feel like Josh last year, after he came back from the injury and the postseason hit, I feel like there was a little bit of a trust issue with Keon because he was young. So hopefully this is those two guys getting on the same page. All right, let's talk. No, go ahead.
No, it looks like it. You know, he led the team in targets, 11 targets for 𝐾𝐿 Coleman, 9 targets apiece for Palmer and Shakir. Palmer had 5 receptions for 61 yards. I think the Buffalo Bills, they showed up when they had to. 𝐾𝐿 Coleman showed up when he had to. I'm proud of him tonight.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Joshua Palmer. What was your thoughts? Because he had a couple of modest receptions throughout the game, and then he had that big one at the end to set up the field goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this is going to be a pick your poison type of wide receiving roster. And we kind of touched on this a few weeks back on Billsology. Like, I think the matchup in the second half, and Hamilton was out for a little while, wasn't he? Didn't Hamilton go down for a little bit?
A little bit.
Yeah. So,
but still.
Yeah,
still carved up a pretty damn good secondary out there.
Their secondary, including rookie Malachi Starks, is absolutely top 3.
Mm-hmm.
But for Joshua Palmer, I think that this is what we want, right? We want get some first down receptions. If we need you in a big spot, we're going to target you in a big spot. Which Josh, kudos to Joe Brady on that last drive, where they didn't seem like they were worried about time. They weren't worried about getting down the field to get that field goal. Josh was just out there slinging the ball, and he had confidence in those receivers, and that was amazing to see. So what's your take on Joshua Palmer? Obviously signing that big contract this year, and he's got a lot of big expectations. So what's your thoughts on Palmer?
And yeah, I think he played well today. I think he played well. He showed up when he had to show up. He made the opportunities. He made the most of his opportunities, especially late in the game. And he's a guy that's part of the mantra of everybody eats. And, he's one of those guys, 5 receptions, 61 yards, had some modest gains, the big gain at the end. This is what we want to see from Josh Palmer. Now, let's think about it here. And we could think about the fans in the comment section can talk about it with me, and maybe they could bring up a time. But Josh Allen to go down the field to win the game, I didn't see it look this easy before. Can you think of a time when it looked this easy for Josh Allen in a big moment against a Joe Burrow or against a Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson to go down and have a game-winning drive, and it looked this crisp, this easy? Yeah. And I think that's a testament to Joshua Palmer and the 𝐾𝐿 Coleman and Khalil Shakir and the weapons that the Buffalo Bills do have. So I think Joshua Palmer and his skill set fits well in the Buffalo Bills offense, and his skill set showed up today, and he made the necessary plays he needed to make. And shout out to the Buffalo Bills coaching staff, because we could get on them and we could have some questions, but they did everything right at the end of this game. Towards the end and throughout the rest of the game.
Don't get me started.
They did everything right.
Hold on. Let's talk about that. No, I'll let you go, and then let's talk about some of these coaching decisions that were made throughout the game. Go ahead. Elaborate on how they did it right. Because I was not happy going for 2 points when you only needed to go for 1 point.
No.
So,
I wasn't happy about that.
The call on that last 2-point conversion, that I don't. You have a 250-pound Buffalo. Like, let him do whatever he needs to do. But yeah, I digress.
No, that absolutely. And throughout the course of the game, in the beginning of the game, before those moments, you definitely have to, like, okay, the Buffalo Bills, we kicked the field goal, take the point. I even tweeted that. I'm like, bro, take the point. Don't take the point off. We're not there yet in terms of guaranteed points. We struggled obviously in that red zone into a bunch of 2-point situations to get those 2 points. I'd rather them keep that point on the board for the Buffalo Bills. So I do think, the coaching staff had their moments where it's like, okay, they probably wish they could have had that back. But in terms of the end of the game, when to use their timeouts, how to get down the field, situational football, the defense getting the necessary stops, they played great situational football at the end of the game, and that starts with the coaching staff. So as much as I want to get on the coaching staff, and of course giving up 40 points is not ideal, situational football at the end of the game on both sides of the football was big for the Buffalo Bills in their win today.
100%. Hey, how nice was it to see Dalton Kincaid get that touchdown to start the game on that first drive? That was, I felt, and I don't want to sound too much like a homer and not like an analyst here, but I felt good for Dalton Kincaid. It was a nice throw by Josh. Josh looked angry. I think Collinsworth even said it on the, or Mike Tirico might have said it, like it looked like it was an angry throw, and it was a nice catch. You got to think that Kincaid's been thinking about the game against the Chiefs for the last 6 months, right? That drop in that game and stuff like that. And he's heard all the chatter too. So what was your feelings on how the tight ends played? Dawson Knox had a couple catches early. Kincaid was very thorough. I thought he had a really, really good game. What was your take on the tight end play from the Bills tonight? Jackson Hawes had a 29-yard reception out of nowhere. In a big moment,
eats, man. Everybody eats. The tight end play. Again, when your name is called, are you going to step up and make the play? And for the most part, all the tight ends that needed to make plays when they had opportunities to make them, they made them. And Dalton Kincaid had the big catch for the touchdown earlier in the game. He had some big catches late in the game as well. I think he played well, and I think he just adds a dimension to this Buffalo Bills offense. The Buffalo Bills probably don't have a bunch of household names in terms of skill positions, but they have a lot of players that do well in their skill set. They present a skill set that is at least above average. They might not be the greatest player, but they all have different skill sets to make one great offense. And I believe the Buffalo Bills did a good job meshing the skill sets of the offensive players together for the Buffalo Bills. And Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, I think they both played well today.
All right, so I think we kind of touched on just about everything. I think let's do the good, bad, and the ugly. But let's start with the ugly first. I think we kind of already touched on it, but what stands out to you as the ugliest part of this game for the Buffalo Bills?
The run defense.
The number one thing that should be on a board in the Bills meeting rooms tomorrow. What is it?
Run defense. Run defense. You cannot give up 9.4 yards per carry on the ground. The Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, the MVP. We're lucky to have him, but you can't expect him to bail you out every week. So that's the first thing that we're going to have to clean up, because again, once a team can run the ball on you, they can open up so many different things, and we're lucky that we're lucky that we came in victorious in this game against the Baltimore Ravens tonight. So that's the first thing that I'm looking at. If I'm Bobby Babish, if I'm Sean McDermott, I'm looking at that run defense. How can we fix that run defense? How can we stop these big gains from the opposition? How can we play better and more fundamentally sound football and get off the field on third downs and be consistent doing so going forward? So That's what I'm looking at for the Buffalo Bills. Run defense, run defense, run defense.
I don't know about you, but when I was watching the Ravens on offense in the first half, I'm like, why are you passing? Like, I understand you want to try to confuse the Bills maybe, and they think you're going to run, but still, even when the Bills knew that they were going to run the ball, they couldn't stop it. There was times when I'm like, why is Lamar dropping back and passing? Like, they just need to turn around. And I understand it's a game of mismatches and all this stuff, but it was just like you said, it was too easy. And we talked about it in depth last night about the worst thing that could happen was basically how this game went in the first half. Derrick Henry with 100 yards at halftime, averaging 14 yards a carry on 7 carries, something like that. And for that to change in the second, I don't know. Now, the Ravens with the lead, I felt like should have just kept hammering the ball. If you run the ball 3 times with Derrick Henry, you're probably going to get a first down. That's when I believe in our group chat, we started talking about the Ravens are going to make a mistake because that happened in the divisional game. They played a really good game except for those 2 mistakes. And if you give the Bills a turnover, you give them that sense of there's daylight, right? And then the Bills kind of fed off of that turnover. So I agree with you. To me, there needs to be extensive film watched on the defensive tackles for the Buffalo Bills. And obviously, it's just going to be which guys fit in at the right time in passing and running situations, which guys are going to rotate in and out that is going to be effective in the run defense. So to me,
it's not going to get easier next week. Justin, we are playing a team that wants to run the football. Probably not to this magnitude. I hope not. But, we definitely going to have to get it fixed sooner rather than later. Justin Fields next week, he's going to want to use his legs as part of his equation at the quarterback position, as well as run the football and use play action within their offense. So we're going to have to fix this rather quickly.
Yeah, the Jets always pose an issue with the Bills. It seems like the last year was a little different, but it seems like the last 5 or 6 years, it seems like it's a division game, right? It's week 2. Both teams will be still figuring things out. I thought Justin Fields played really good today, honestly. And like you said, Breece Hall can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's dynamic, just carrying the ball. So we'll see. So I guess for me, the bad would be the Bills offense in the first half. Throw that playbook out the window, whatever that was. We saw it against the Chiefs. It didn't work. It made me awfully nervous about the wide receivers on this roster and putting them in a scheme that just didn't look like it worked at all. Whatever they did in the second half was what should have been the game plan all along. Now, I understand you're pass heavy and Josh Allen threw over 40 passes because he had to, and you don't want to typically do that. They didn't have to do that a lot last year, but I feel like the play calling from Joe Brady has to be consistent and better. What's your thoughts as far as the bad from this game? Oh, you're muted.
The bad is, giving up 40 points. You can't,
100%.
You cannot give up 40 points. You just, no matter how the team constructs their drives to get the points, you just can't do it, man. We have to play better on the defensive side of the ball. We have to show more resistance on the defensive side of the ball. We have to get off the field on third down. Players and coaches. Players got to perform, play better. Coaches got to put players in better positions to make these plays. Going forward, we're going to definitely have to button this up. We cannot play this bend but don't break defense. At some point, if we have Super Bowl aspirations, we're going to have above average, in my opinion, at least an above average defense. It doesn't have to be, the Chicago Bears defense from back in the day. It doesn't have to be the Baltimore Ravens of 2000, but the Buffalo Bills are going to have to play above average defense, and this is something that we're going to have to tighten up. Are we going to have to look at the safety position going forward, or what are we doing with the defensive tackles? Who's going to be in the rotation during these run fits so we can be in better positions to stop these plays? What adjustments do we have to make going forward so we can show more resistance on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I don't think Bills fans can take having to play games like this. Now, I'm sure it's exciting to watch Josh Allen throw for 400 yards and run for 2 touchdowns, but I don't think that this is the style of football that the Bills want to play. They want to get back to what they did last year. They were a run-controlled offense, and Josh had high percentage plays that were called That's why the turnovers were so few and far between last year. I will say this, however, tonight the Bills did control. They controlled the ball. Like it was pretty mistake-free football as far as turning the ball over, dropping, fumble, things like that. So to me, the good was Josh Allen. I mean, it's easy. It was whatever switch was flipped in the second half. And like you said, those drives towards the end of the game, it looked like it was just too easy. And it's not supposed to be too easy against the Baltimore Ravens. So I like the fact that the Bills were in one of the game of the year contenders already, and they actually came out on the positive side of it, because we've seen this go the other way, where it's one of these crazy games, last minute scoring, things like that. And it goes the other way. So to me, whatever they dialed up as far as running routes and getting the receivers involved in that second half, it can work. Now, were the Ravens playing prevent defense at some point? Yes, but when it was 40-38, the Ravens were not playing prevent defense. When it was 40-32, the Ravens weren't playing prevent defense. They were playing to win that game, and Josh Allen beat them. So to me, let's feed off of that and try to sprinkle in some more of that. Now, Curtis Samuel didn't play, so I saw that there was a little run play to Elijah Moore early on, and then didn't hear a peep out of Elijah Moore the rest of the game. So that's going to be interesting to see what they do with the 6 wide receiver positions. Tyrell Shavers, did he even, I mean, besides special teams, was he on the field? You know what I mean? So I think having 6 receivers on the roster for a reason should be used in that aspect. So what's your good for the game?
Despite giving up 40 points, my good would be Ed Oliver. He showed up, man. You showed up during a primetime game on a primetime stage on a big moment. First game of the season, yes, but a big moment on multiple times, and you jumped off the screen. 3 tackles for loss, a sack, pushing the offensive lineman back into Derrick Henry, and being dominant and looking forceful and physical, and getting that turnover. Getting the necessary turnover we needed to make the comeback possible. Ed Oliver showed up and showed out today. Who is going to step up on defense and make a big play when we need them to make a big play? And tonight, that was Ed Oliver.
Agree with you 100%. He was one of the few bright signs from the Bills on defense. I thought Joey Bosa was starting to come around too a little bit. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. And you could tell he was pissed off when he had that 15-yard tackle for loss. You could tell he was walking back to the huddle. He's like, I'm freaking Joey Bosa. Like, I need to play like freaking Joey Bosa. And then a couple plays later was when he had that play on Lamar when he contained him. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys grow. I think we still have a lot. Like, Deon Walker is raw. We have to just be patient with Deon Walker. We don't want to be patient because we want to be able to stop the run. TJ Sanders is a little raw. Landon Jackson wasn't even active tonight. So I think there's a lot of pieces that we're going to have to be patient. Plus, we're going to get Michael Hoyt back. We're going to get Larry Ogunjobi back. So I think there are some reinforcements coming. But I think it's game by game. It's going to have to just be adjustments made game by game. And like you said, who is the best 2 defensive tackles to be in there on run downs? You know, they're going to have to figure that out because the edge defenders, we know who those guys are and we know what they can do. So, all right. Bills come back from down 15, 41-40 in a heart-pounding come from behind victory that I swear this has to be one of the oddest, funnest, most exciting, frustrating Bills games that I've watched in a long time. And I'm just glad that we were on the winning side of this one. Do you have any takes before we get out of here? I know it's approaching 1 a.m. So you have any takes before we get out of here?
You know, week 1, it feels like even though we was at home, it felt like we stole this victory, right?
Facts.
It feels like the Buffalo Bills got away with one tonight, and I'm just happy to be on the right side of the victory lane, so to speak. You know, this is an AFC opponent. Who knows how the records may play? late in the season, we may be looking back at this game and how this unfolded in terms of seedings later on. So just to be on in the winner's circle is a great feeling. But marathon, not a sprint. Week 1, game 1. We want to hoist the Lombardi Trophy, but this is a good start. A lot of things to work on, but I'm happy for the start.
Yeah, and you say that knowing that the Chiefs and the Ravens lost this week. So, I mean, these things add up. I said when I did a prediction video, I wasn't going to overreact if the Bills lost because it was week 1 and it's a long season. Like you said, it's a marathon, but it's nice to win a game. And I don't want to say this, but I feel like the Bills won a game that they had no business winning after you watch the first half of how the defense performed. But it was week 1. So you got to stack W's. You got to get them whenever you can. They're moving on to the Jets in New Jersey. So that'll be a 1 p.m. game on Sunday. So I'll be back here tomorrow. I have a good friend, Peter DiBiase, is going to come on for First and 5. So Bills fans, we're 1-0. Akeem, you want to take us out of here, man?
Yeah, most definitely. The Buffalo Bills defeat the Baltimore Ravens by the score of 41-40. My name is 𝐸𝐻⁴. If you don't know me, if you don't know us by now, ladies and gentlemen, please get to know us. That is DM3. We are the founders of Bills in Buffalo, and we'll see you next week. Go Bills.
Go Bills.